Darkness. Constant darkness. When it wasn't night on the planet Velvinur, it was gray and raining. It had been months, perhaps even years, since the sun had beamed down, and it showed. The grounds were bare, any plant life consisting of weeds or twigs and branches. Any efforts to substitute natural light ended with failure upon failure until all resources were wasted. Buildings without power, food rotten, people starving. All that was left in the end was darkness. Those who couldn't get off-world were left to die in the ruins of a once thriving civilization. Many buildings now lay abandoned, from apartments to supermarkets to hospitals. But there are other buildings where life flourishes, even slightly. The orphanage. A place meant for safety to children with no connection to their parentage. But on Velvinur, the orphanage is no longer safe. Not to little Ella, anyway. Ella was the only child, nay, the one person left within the damp, decaying building that was once considered home. With no staff to help her, she would spend her days in her room with whatever entertainment her imagination could conjure up. Gone were the days where she and the other children would sit down for lunch, play games, gossip about who did what, where and how. Now, if Ella had to eat, as in really had to eat, she had to wander down the corridor to the kitchen and take whatever hadn't expired yet. These days, Ella was able to manage roughly 2 days at a time on the tinned goods stored away in the larder. Occasionally, there was the odd treat, and the rain provided a decent enough water supply. But this was hardly a life for a 10-year-old girl, especially one with the entire run of a large building. The worst part of Ella's routine was sleeping. Oh, sure, she knew it was nighttime by the level of darkness outside, but it was the weather that can make sleeping difficult. The howling wind, the belting of rain, the crackling of lightning. Either of these were enough to terrify her, and tonight was no exception. After a helping of tinned peas, Ella settled in her room, getting herself as comfortable as she could. The bed was getting old and creaky. Frankly, it should have been replaced before the staff fled, but Ella had made dues with the only accommodation she knew. She closed her eyes and sighed deeply. "Tomorrow's another day," she would say. Something that one of the carers would say as a form of comfort. While it wasn't super effective, it had developed into Ella's nighttime routine, the last thing she does for the day. The wind was particularly fierce, getting in through broken windows and bellowing against the walls and down hallways. This was fairly normal for Ella, but nonetheless caused her to toss and turn, wrapping deeper into the blanket like a caterpillar cocooning itself. A few hours passed, and as the winds seemed to die down, a loud screech was heard. Ella woke with terror brandished on her face. This was unlike anything she had heard before. Was it an animal? A person? It was hard to tell, but it had shook her out of her slumber. Ella felt she wouldn't be getting back off for a while, and with all these strange thoughts racing around her mind, she had this urge to investigate the source of the cry. Perhaps it was how unearthly it sounded. Perhaps it was a need to stop it from happening again. Or perhaps it was the need to do something that stirred Ella into action. She hopped out of bed, into her shoes, picked up a torch she kept at her bedside, and headed out. It was hard to figure out which direction the cry had come from, but it seemed close by. Perhaps by a window? As Ella walked down the corridor, she could make out echoes of something pounding. Against a door? She thought. The orphanage felt like a labyrinth at the best of times. She only needed to know where the kitchen was, but having to figure out where all these noises were coming from somehow made it harder to navigate. Left, right again. Ella was beginning to hear sounds of a struggle. Had someone gotten into the orphanage? What if they were hostile? She only had a torch to defend herself. Bang! One of the doors in front of Ella shifted outwards for a brief moment, causing her to stop where she stood. If she wasn't absolutely terrified already, she was now. She had never even considered the possibility that someone might break into the orphanage. It was miles from any decently populated, or rather, previously populated area, which is why she always kept within the confines rather than venture out. Yet, now, Ella was having to rack her half-awake brain around a very real potential threat for the first time since she was left all on her own. Okay, deep breaths and... she said quietly, regaining control of her inhales and exhaling out of her built-up fear. Panicking is getting you nowhere. You gotta stand your ground, Ella, like you did whenever Terrence would try to get a rise during lunch. You came here to investigate, and investigate you shall do. Prep talk over, she approached the door cautiously as more bangs and crashes kept rocking it off its hinges. Before Ella had a chance to reach for the doorknob, she heard a yell approaching her. Ella had managed to dive out of the way as someone burst straight through the door, having been thrown from behind into the opposite wall. Ella observed the stranger. Fortunately, the tumble had not been hard enough to render him unconscious. He got to his feet from a rather awkward position he had been left in. She now got a better look at this tall, distinguished man. He had long golden locks of hair, a brown leather coat engulfing a tie and waistcoat, knee-high boots, and was carrying some kind of torch of his own. He was looking back into the room, presumably staring his attacker down. The stranger spoke in a grouchy voice.
Firstly, ow. Secondly, thank goodness I didn't trigger a regeneration. Putting smash through a door on my list of ways to die is a bit of an outlier. Thirdly, you are a lot stronger than I gave you credit for.
Ella watched as a sinister-looking shadowy creature stepped out through the frame, smashing up chunks of rotten wood left on the floor from when the door had been smashed. It looked wrong. That's all she could think. That this creature, whatever it was the pure definition of wrong. She let out whines of terror, nervous what would happen next. Her whines drew the attention of both the man and the creature.
Run!
Ella didn't run. She was frozen in fear as the creature snarled at her. The stranger was looking between Ella and the creature, piecing together some kind of plan which he engages at once.
Oh no, you don't.
The stranger pulls his torch, a small red bulb lighting up and buzzing like a bee at the creature. He advises Ella to cover her ears to avoid any discomfort or ringing sensation, hoping that the creature would get the full brunt of it instead. The man walks around the creature, protecting Ella in the process until it spins 180 degrees and runs away from the noise. The buzzing stops, and Ella takes her hands away from her ears.
Okay then. Sonic vibrations are a weakness. Noted.
What was that?
It never was.
Never was?
Yes. Creatures that have forced their way into existence through the rips in time. They don't exist anywhere, yet now they exist here.
Are we safe?
It depends on who you mean by we. You, young lady, are safe as long as I'm around. And I've been getting along well enough to feel safe myself. If that's what you mean, then yes, we're safe.
The man's grin became a smile as he extended his hand out to Ella. She looked at his face and then his hand, and took it. It was warm to the touch, a real comfort for the first time in months. Ella asked him, What's your name? To which he replied,
I'm the doctor. And yourself?
with an air of kindness that he clearly reserved for those he trusts. Ella smiled slightly and told him her name, her age, and asked, Are you going to stop that thing?
Oh, Ella. I'm going to send that thing and any others snooping around here packing. Believe me. Speaking of which, I have some questions of my own about this place. Do you know where the staff are, Ella?
Ella looked downcast at the question. They're not here. It's just me. Was all she could reply. The doctor was slightly taken aback at the fact that a single child, was left all alone in this place. He figured there may have been someone else, an authority figure in charge, but, well, he thought, I suppose that was Ella then.
I'm so sorry you've been left in this position, Ella. What's been done to you, to Velvinur even, it's...
The doctor tried to compose himself as he processed the state of the planet, no doubt caused in some fashion by the Time War's influence, before inhaling and exhaling. Ella asked if he was alright. The doctor looked at her and answered with a twinkle in his eyes and a reassuring smile.
Oh, no need to worry about me, Ella. I've been through worse scrapes and I've come out on top. Thank you for asking, though. I always appreciate someone who expresses kindness.
Miss Ruggett always taught me to be kind, even in the presence of bullies.
Miss Ruggett sounds like a wise woman.
Yeah. I miss her. Doctor. I miss a lot of them. Even Terrence.
Tell you what, once I've sorted out all the nasty never was, I'll take you to find them.
Ella's eyes widened. Find Miss Ruggett? Terrence? Her friends, Jerry and Neri? Was it too good to be true? Or could the doctor really do this? You mean it? She asked, to which the doctor nodded his head.
Best to sit close to me in the meantime. My sonic screwdriver should keep any more never was at bay. And then, I promise, and I know it's a big thing to say, I promise I'll get you where you want to be. Shall we?
The doctor waved his hand in the direction of where the never-was creature had scuttled off. Ella was still nervous, but having the doctor by her side made her feel brave enough to follow his lead. The doctor waved his device from left to right and held it up to his ear, explained to Ella that he might be able to trace a remnant of the creature's trail which will lead them to it, or its pack. He held her hand tightly to give her a reassurance of comfort, and the two walked side by side with a sense of determination. As they traversed down the dingy corridors, the doctor and Ella kept as quiet as mice. The only sounds heard were their own footsteps and the whir of the doctor's sonic screwdriver. Ella considered asking the doctor for an update on the monster's whereabouts, but she could see he was deep in concentration. The whirs and buzzing clearly meant something to him. They were now approaching the old reception area, one of the larger areas of the building. The doctor, finding that the trace of the never-was presence was getting more and more potent, stopped by the closed doors and pocketed his device. He looked down at Ella, got on his knee to match her height, and whispered to her with the same kind tone in his voice.
My best guess from the direction the sonic took us in is the never was is through here. Once we go in, I want you to stay close to me, okay? And be as brave as you can possibly be. Alright?
Ella gave a nod and said, I'll do my best, Doctor.
Your best is all anyone can hope for.
The doctor returned to his standing position, taking Ella's hand again and pushed open the twin doors. They looked within to find a pack of never-was. At least a dozen of the shadowy creatures staring back at them with nothing but white dots for eyes. One of them displaying the silhouette of horns or spikes on top of his head, paced forwards and spoke with an echoey voice.
So, you are the humans that are scouted and counted. The one with the screeching wand, and the one who sleeps alone.
Ella was unnerved by the voice and stood behind the doctor, who considered the words spoken.
The screeching wand. That's a new one. Most people just call me the Doctor. Others call me far worse, but enough about me. What about you? The head of this pack of never-was, I take it.
You know us, Doctor, which places you at a dangerous advantage.
The pack leader says with a sense of calm, smooth elegance as it circles around the doctor and Ella, scoping them both out.
We cannot allow you to have an advantage over our kind. We thrive on being one step above others in our way.
Not my fault you threaten others to get your way. The universe isn't your playground to do as you please, and believe me when I say I do not tolerate bullying of any kind. I have the right to defend however I please, and that includes scaring away those who scare harmless children like my friend Ella.
The never-was looked amongst each other as they assessed the doctor's words, and the pack leader spoke in the same calm manner.
Your words and actions seem as though you do not accept us being in this universe. And yet, do we not have a right to exist, to survive?
It tilts his head like a curious animal, awaiting the doctor's response.
I have no qualms about you wishing to survive, but you can't just decide to be top dog amongst the rest of the universe and expect no bite back. I know why you're here in the first place. If the war hadn't...
The Tide War was our salvation, our freedom from our decaying dimension. We celebrated for giving us an opportunity.
Praise the Lord from the heavens.
You see the war as a symbol of hope and positivity, but could we not be further from the truth? It is a disease ripping time and space to shreds, and there's only a few left who can stop it. But please, listen. You need not be this way. I can help you. I can find you a quiet spot where you can live out your lives without having to destroy other lives in the process. Top of the chain, in your own environment. Nothing to bother you, What do you say? Never was.
The room was still with the dozen or so never-was eyeing the doctor without any visible emotion. The doctor stared at each and every one with as much patience as he could muster. All the while Ella was peeking out from behind his coat. The leader spoke again, with a finality in its tone.
This has been a fascinating conversation, Doctor. But we must decline your offer. If you'll excuse us, we shall be continuing with our intended goals. But we now understand you are a factor if we are able to reach our goals.
And with that, the never-was began to sprint towards the doctor and Ella like a gang of wolves surrounding its prey. Ella yelped whilst the doctor pulled out his sonic and unleashed its buzzing once more upon the attacking never-was. However, the more never-was there was, the less impact the sonic had on them. It happened all at once, a swipe at the doctor's hand, a cry of surprise from the doctor, a cry of fear from Ella, and a bash against the floor from the sonic. The doctor tried to leap after it, but the pack kept him from going further. Ella, on the other hand, managed to slip past the creatures and make a grab for the sonic screwdriver. She made herself known with a loud, "Stay away from him!" as she pointed the tip towards the now frozen never-was who had almost enveloped themselves upon the doctor, who in turn had a look of surprise and awe at her defiance over the creatures.
Be careful, Ella.
I think I'm okay as long as you're okay. They won't hurt me when I have this, right? I won't let them hurt you in return.
Oh. I think it's more than that, Ella. You lot don't like being threatened yourself, do you, eh? Not very nice when you're being told off. All this time it hadn't occurred to me. But now I realise. You use others' negative emotions to your own advantage, but if they stand up to you without any sense of fear or dread, then what do you have over them? Nobody for you to terrify around here. Why don't you head on your way now? Remember this though, if I ever run into you again, and I see you terrifying another child or person, or even so much as a ladybird, it won't go so easy on you then.
The Never Was pack gave a low, growling noise, almost like muttering under their breath, with its leader imposing one last response.
We shall see, Doctor. We shall see.
And with that, the entire pack began dissipating and breaking down into tears of black paper-like particles until nothing was left except the doctor and Ella, alone together in the old abandoned orphanage. The doctor sighed deeply and began to speak before Ella performed a remarkable tackle hug against his side. He smiled and patted her head softly as he bended down to return the hug. A safety blanket for both of them.
Come along, Ella. Let's guide you home.
A couple of hours later, the doctor and Ella walked towards a tall blue box parked outside the orphanage. They were carrying a few essentials that Ella handpicked herself. Everything she felt she needed once the doctor had taken her to the nearby planetoid Edinburgh, which, upon accessing the still active computer network via the sonic screwdriver, had been identified as the destination for evacuation, which now housed everyone who had fled Velvinur. After everything she had been through, not just tonight, but the countless days and nights of fending for herself, Ella knew that if the doctor put his trust into this distinguished-looking box to get them home, then she will put her trust into it as well.
Ready for one last adventure, Ella?
Ella beamed at the doctor as they both stepped inside to be greeted with a spectacular room filled with machinery. A room that, to put it mildly, was rather bigger inside than one would have assumed from the outside. She couldn't help gasping in awe with big oohs and ahs and wows.
Glad to see you like the TARDIS, Ella. Between you and I reckon the old girl is just as happy to have you on board. Now then, will all passengers please take their seats as we head off to our next stop, Rettenberg.
As Ella and her plushy friends took their places at a row of comfortable-looking chairs, the doctor whizzed around the TARDIS console, engaging all sorts of flight protocols as the large glass column began glowing with power, wheezing into life. As the engines roared away, the light on top of the TARDIS's box exterior flashed brightly until it had completely disappeared. The sounds of the engine faded into the air, and once more the desolate Velvinur was left in total silence. Not a sound, not a peep, not a never was to speak.